Earth debate live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to like and subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Neil and a whole bunch of people in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server, so welcome one and all.
No Brian.
Hello.
No Adam.
No coffee.
Chocolate. No Eli. No coffee. Uh-oh.
All going terribly wrong today, yeah, terrible. I almost didn't do a show. I did say this in the pre-show. I was so depressed. Anyway, we've got a video to cover today, in case you haven't figured it out, because I actually went to the effort of producing a thumbnail before the show, which I don't think I've ever done before. But given that I know that this particular group of individuals proved popular last time, or semi-same, it was one other different guy. But this podcast, which is Podcast of the Lotus Eaters, was popular last time when they were covering the moon landing. Now, with that in mind, when Liam suggested that I cover this in Master B, I'm like, yeah, definitely. And I'll produce a thumbnail in advance so people can see exactly what we're covering when we're covering it live. So hopefully that thumbnail's functional and does actually work. I asked my daughter to pick the colours, because I'm completely colourblind, and she assures me they are legible. So there we go. So we'll be covering that shortly. But in the meantime, any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
No, we have pressurized gas.
Yeah. Is there any evidence you can have that pressurised gas without a container?
Yeah. The air.
The air is pressurised gas, therefore by antecedent consequent relationship there must be containment for the air to be at pressure. And I'm asking, is there any evidence that you can have that gas pressure without it pressing on something, without a container?
Nathan, I do not see a dome. I do not see a firmament, but I know I'm breathing air.
You don't see the air
so
either.
Therefore,
you don't see the air.
Can have
You don't see the air
yeah, but
either.
I have gas pressure, right?
Yeah, but you don't see it. So you're saying because you don't see the air doesn't exist. Well, because I don't see the container doesn't exist. No, without the container, there can be no pressure. Anything else?
Well, I'm constantly asked to show me the container.
I don't need to show you the container. I can show you that we have gas pressure. The only reason we're arguing about this is because the positive claim isn't from us asserting what the sky is, when there's a rhetoric from the church that suggests that the sky is a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum. And if the sky was, as is being claimed in a positive claim by our opponents who believe they're on a globe, a 10 to the minus 17 torr sky vacuum, then the gas we breathe would fill the space. Are you watching live? There is actually a new video out. So typically I release these videos that are only cuts to members first. Well, in this instance, the edited video wasn't released to members first. The unedited video was. So that ended up getting quite a number of views. Well over 100 views, which for a members only video is actually exceptional. Anyway, the unedited video only got 100 views, and then I've published the edited video almost immediately after producing it yesterday. It was set for a timer when I was in bed. So it came out at 2 o'clock in the morning UK time. So you may be unaware of that if you are in the UK and watching live. Go and check it out. I can't actually remember what the hell I titled it now. I should really know the thing I'm plugging. Oh dear. I do make a lot of videos though, so it's kind of fair enough. Excuse me. So the video was called, or is called, So Big It's Flat. And the reason it's got that title is because I'm talking to these two young gentlemen, one of which proved his age by showing how many tattoos he had, which I found. I only mention it because when I published it on TikTok, people were like, talking to more children. I'm like, number one, he states his age in the video. And when I, in the unedited video, say, are you over 18? Because he obviously looks young. And he's like showing me all the tattoos that he's got. Now, being familiar with the tattooing industry, I am definitely not. But what I am aware of is legally you can only get a tattoo if you're over 18. So I'm like, okay, fair enough. That's enough justification for me to say, you know, it's highly unlikely that you can be strolling in at 16, 17 to a tattoo parlour when they're going to be asking you for ID and then getting your entire sleeves done. You know what I mean? So based on that, I carried on interviewing these two guys. And the one guy is quite happy to accept that Earth is so big that when you zoom into a section that you get in the angles I'm telling him about to Polaris, that it's okay to get those angles because you're basically flat when you're at that scale. It's like, no, you're never flat at any scale if you're on a ball. But he's happy to square that circle with, no, Earth's so big I can measure it flat, even with me saying, so you are telling me it's measured flat then? And he's like, yeah, but only because it's a really big ball, as is so commonly the case. I just didn't think I'd get this higher standard out of Omi, which is great. So, notwithstanding the fact that they are accepting the squaring of the circle in that regard, when it gets to space being fake, oh my, they aren't happy. Can you believe this guy's telling us space is fake? Was one of the reactions, which again, after they've told me Earth's measured flat, was pretty epic. Some of the guys that were there when I was producing it, like I think it was Refracted, said it was the best one so far from these Omi clips. It's quite long. It's about 12 or 13 minutes long. But in terms of, you know, this is average Joe. He's self-declaring that he doesn't know much about the subject, but he's telling me Earth's so big it's okay to measure it flat, and that he's horrified to hear that space is fake and that men haven't gone to the moon. You know, and he's asking about God. So for all the justification of people who say, no, it's naturally and logically following on once you find this information out, that's the next place you go and start questioning. These guys did it all within 12 minutes. Like, bang, bang, bang. You're telling me Earth's flat? Well, I can accept that. Earth's so big we measure it flat. Right, next. Space? Fake? How dare you? Well, if it is, how is it all made? Is there a God? That was how it went. So in terms of a condensed version of this is how people wake up to this subject, it's that in spades. So that video is called So Big It's Flat. It's, like I say, your typical Omi cut from the perspective of its horrible camera and mic on his side. Awesome sound, mic and lighting, and beautiful man in the picture on my side. So check it out.
Didn't he say, sorry Nathan, didn't he actually say, well, the moon landings could be fake, but space is definitely not fake, something like that?
Yeah. He's like, oh yeah, it's a bit far-fetched to go to the moon. It's a very long distance. That was the bit that I couldn't get in. I wanted to get that in. That would have been, 100% perfect. Because when he said distance, a bit like earlier, I don't know if I did this live or in the pre-show, when you're talking about the scaling of heliocentric Copernican models with the addition of Keplerian elliptical orbits, the scale for it is all controlled within the rhetoric of their maths. Therefore, suggesting that you've got these absurd distances that would be difficult to travel. You're like, those distances, and indeed the fuel straw man, are irrelevant because they're inventing the distances. They've got control of all the scales. They've got control of the speed they claim the light will be travelling in those vacuums that we can't exist within because the gas we're breathing would fill the space. But all of this maths for all of these distances has all come from church origins, Roman Catholic Church specifically. But I didn't get to tell him when he was like, yeah, I don't believe in the moon because of the distance. You're like, well, the distance you're believing in came from flat Earth measurements. So, yeah, what difference does it make if you believe in space and don't believe in the moon landing? That's why they've allowed the conspiracy of the moon landing to perpetuate, because it still props up the idea that we just couldn't get there. We hadn't got the technology to get there because there still exists as a soil planet in the night sky, which it might be. I can't say it isn't. I just know it isn't in the way they've told us. There's no sky vacuum to travel to that area they're claiming is soil. I couldn't confirm or deny.
Essentially, what we're saying is the root cause for all the heliocentric religious lies and garbage all boils down to a flat Earth elevation angle measurement.
Yeah, but I can't pin it. Historically, I can't pin the time down as to when it went from men satisfying the church's need to be able to predict better when certain celestial events will take place, so they can tell the people when Easter's going to be, quite specifically, to when it turns into a reified model that people actually believe they're standing on because they're told so. There's somewhere in the last 500 years where there's a transition. Now, if you were that person in charge and capable of doing that, you wouldn't obviously have it documented as a part of historical narratives. So you can only read between the lines and infer when that might have occurred based on maybe the primary source research for certain characters that have been inserted into the heliocentric rhetoric, where the timeline ends for them sort of 180, 200, 250 maybe years ago. You go, well, it would seem that at the point that they want us to believe we've known we're on a ball for thousands of years, the timeline for those stories kind of ends abruptly and there's no more primary sources for them. So you go, maybe these are invented characters that have been inserted into the narrative maybe 300 years ago, so that at that point there's a decision by some unknown hidden hand that I hate talking in this context with, that has suggested we should actually now tell the people they are actually on that ball model that was used to better predict where the stars would be by this wacky idea of us being on a ball moving around the bleeding sun. But if we actually say that is the world, we do actually have the maths to calculate it up with things like what's on screen now, Earth curve derivations from perspective views. And then you remove, there must have been a decision, and the only reason I can ascribe to it through pure speculation is what we'll be covering today. We have expanded out the known worlds. The territories have been increased. The new worlds have been found, and they've been very resourceful. And in later history, the older natives get annoyed at the aliens that come from those new worlds to their established territories. Now, in even more modern history, they don't like the term alien. Better to call them displaced people. They don't like the term New World or Third World country because New World and Third World is a bit too familiar for somebody that might clock that that's how we actually expanded our known territories. We didn't go up to the sky vacuum to violate the second law of thermodynamics and bring soil back from the moon. That's complete lies. But at some point we definitely turned what was an expanded territory flat into a ball. And us, in our current situation, have been born and raised to believe we're standing on that ball. But I cannot, and probably never will be able to peg down the timeline for when that transition occurred. I know when the system was invented, and I know the end result. Everything else is going to be propagandized for obvious reasons. So it's a difficult one to research. We get there, and it's taken 10 years to get how we can describe what I've just described, which is an amazing feat, considering the propagandization, if that's a word, of what would have been that transition that we'll never find out. We'll never really know why we're put on a ball, because there's a good chance that anybody who even came close to knowing that has long been dead, and it's just been self-perpetuating since. We keep the lie going. There's going to be certain people who figure it out and realise its benefit and keep it perpetuated. And there's going to be certain people who just never know. They are born, raised, and die on a globe, never knowing that the flat Earth that they were actually standing on was measured to create that religious belief.
So we can't go back in history to say 1,000, 1,200, the year 1,200, and we can't find out what they would teach in schools?
Well, we can find out that they were teaching non-globe rhetoric in schools as little as 120 years ago. So from that, that was where I used to peg it, and I just stopped when someone pointed out that no, there's other people that are still taught much earlier than that Earth is a globe. So you go, well, all you can peg that to is when was the final transition, and the final transition is as recent as 100 years ago, just before 10th Man disappeared. I don't want to spoil his thunder if he ever returns with this information, but he was looking at some of the Chinese navigators who were navigating flat Earth like 120, 130 years ago. And it's just that was still used in those standards with absolutely no connection to a globe. You're like, okay, well, since then they have also transitioned. But you could probably put a hard line 100 years ago and say that's when the transition was complete. But then you go from that completion point to now, the level of censorship in the media that's needed to suppress this standard information, because it is what we're discussing currently at the tip of the spear, is advanced heliocentrism, isn't it? How the heliocentric model came to measure these angles and measurements of radii for things like Venus and Earth are all flat, whether you like it or not. That's part of the measurements. And you're seeing people like Thunderfoot do it to this day, just affirms that which we've been saying for the last 9-10 months and previous.
They made that whole crap up. That was key.
What crap? Oh, Neil's mic's a train wreck. Let's move on to the video, unless anybody's got anything to add from Discord. No Discord other than one deck. You've all been very quiet so far.
So wait, you don't think the moon landing was put in place for that reason?
The moon
So
landing's put in
finally
place.
put it to rest?
The moon landing is put in place, like I said in the pre-show, so that where I can easily show a historic standard that discovered new worlds flat in what was previously known and can be shown and documented as being called outer space, the area beyond the horizon where the new worlds were found. To contrast that, if you're going to claim that the new worlds are actually the twinkling lights in the sky, you need something to substantiate that, don't you? So going there and coming back with rocks, look, the lights are definitely soil. We got rocks from the light in the sky, through the sky vacuum. We travelled through the violation of natural law to get them. Now you need to look up to the sky if you ever want to go to new worlds. That's why we're now covering this. Good segue, Neil. So this is where this particular podcast comes in, where they're discussing the whys and start that again. They're discussing the whys and wherefores of going to Mars and colonizing it.
Be there. So we need loads and loads of missions to drop loads of stuff already there. For example, there's the example of the Perseverance rover, if anyone knows about that. So we can drop something the size of a car that's completely automated, that can do all sorts of things. Oh yeah, I mean, if you play that video, don't put the audio on, but if you play it, and if anyone remembers, this is quite a few years ago now, that's it dropping into the Martian atmosphere.
Atmo what now? That didn't take long. I picked it a random point, almost. So I listened to about 25 seconds of it at a random point and thought this is a good point to dive in. So, sphere-shaped air around a rock in a sky vacuum. So there's a very limited amount of sphere-shaped air around Mars for this parachute to work. No. You see, if there was any air on Mars for this parachute to work in Narnia, then it would be dissipating into the sky vacuum that the journey to Mars just took place in. Yeah? It's a law of nature. High pressure gas goes to low pressure. So if you're suggesting that when they arrive at Mars, there's suddenly, some high pressure gas there, just conveniently to make a parachute work? No, it's oxymoronic atmosphere, sphere-shaped air. Air doesn't take sphere shapes. You're never going to fart and ball it up for me. It just dissipates into the house, letting everyone around you know how stinky and dirty you are. That's what gas does. It dissipates into whatever volume there is available. So if Mars was a twinkling rock in a sky vacuum, as is claimed, then the gas would fill the space. Now, that just means that every bit of this footage they're about to assess is all fake. There is no sky vacuum to have a journey to Mars. There is no atmospheric sphere-shaped air to make a parachute work in violation of natural law. So they can travel through the sky vacuum in this rocket, but these gas particles on Mars aren't dispersing into the 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum they just travelled through. That's a violation of natural law. Gas fills space. Space is fake. Outer space, the sky vacuum, is fake.
They had a thing called the Sky Crane. Do you remember? Do you remember Perseverance? Anyone? Do you remember?
I know the thing you're referring to now. You're showing it, but I didn't.
It's a giant rover that's like the size of a car.
Yeah.
And it had a giant. That's real footage. That's the surface of Mars.
No, it isn't. I can say unequivocally that this is not, quote, real footage, because you've followed that up by saying real footage from Mars. There is no footage that has come to fruition by way of a journey through a sky vacuum. So the rocket that went and got this, quote, real footage, traversed the high-pressure gas that we're all breathing, entered an area of vacuum, and then arrived back on a rock that happens to also have high-pressure gas not filling a vacuum for you to claim that it's real. No. Definitely not. Now, it might be real as in a reel of footage in the old-fashioned sense, like tape going through a camera. You've really filmed what was entering into the lens. Yeah, they might have dropped a car with a parachute. Because I know they can do that here, where we have atmospheric, in quotes, pressure. No, we just have air pressure. Meaning we must be under containment to achieve that air pressure. For parachutes to work, as they do here, in a contained system that has gas pressure. But if there was no containment, that is to say the rockets could just travel through the air that we're all enjoying breathing, into that vacuum, then so would all the gas we're breathing and we'd all be dead. Like that scene in Total Recall, when Arnie and his girlfriend land on the surface of Mars and they're all choking. Why? Well, because gas fills space. Of course, in Narnia and Total Recall, the rules don't apply, like rules of nature, laws that govern the way gas behaves, descriptions of that which occurs always, like gas filling space, which is precisely what both the Earth's gas and in Narnia land, where this twinkling light is actually a rock that they can travel to, through the vacuum. The gas hasn't just filled. It's all garbage. Nobody's going to the lights in the sky. And when they claim they have law of nature violations to suggest that they have when you believe it's real. It's not.
If you believe all the NASA lies and propaganda, that is.
I believe this stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Then they had a...
Yeah, that's what it's based on. You're not doing it. You look up at a twinkling orange light. That's what you do. At best, probably haven't done that. Now, I won't besmirch your character. I don't know whether or not you own a telescope or have ever looked at Mars through it. I certainly have. It's just a twinkling light. But apparently it's the new worlds. No. Recent history has shown that we expanded out our territories in what used to be known as space. The area beyond the horizon. Where we found new worlds. With those pesky aliens. I mean, displaced people. Wouldn't want to be calling them aliens. They only exist on Mars, where these rockets are going through sky vacuums in violation of natural law, like men traversing a wardrobe. They're not. There is no Narnia, there is no wardrobe, there is no way to travel through sky vacuums to get to these places. We did definitely find new worlds, though, in our recent history. Of course, it wouldn't be best if we carried on calling them new worlds, would it? Best to call them developed countries. Don't call them third world countries, because third world is a bit too suggestive of how the actual history of our expansion of our territory actually went down. Call them underdeveloped countries. Yeah, because they're on a ball. And they were always on the ball. It wasn't that we didn't know where these new worlds were or hadn't actually experienced the people that existed on them before we encountered them and put them on our maps. I mean, they were always on the ball to begin with, so let's not suggest that they're the new worlds. And if any flat earthers come along, don't let them know this. Make sure they're only talking about Antarctica as an ice ring from a global projection that they definitely will be saying is the ring around the world. Why? Well, because we wouldn't want them talking about the actual history of the expansion of our world in outer space, finding new worlds with new peoples and new resources that we colonized and mined. Those resourceful new worlds, just don't call them new worlds anymore. Just point at the twinkling lights and future fake your way to every person on Earth. They're so far away, it'll be decades before we actually get to do this. And by then we'll be future faking a new generation of people telling them it'll be decades. Meanwhile, in our recent history, we did find new worlds.
A thing called a sky crane where it had rockets to sort of stabilize itself and then drop Perseverance down on some tethers and drop it gently on the surface. Anyway, we'll let that play for a bit while I keep on talking. But no, so putting humans on Mars is technically a massive, massive task. So first of all, we'd need
It's not a possibility. Yeah, there's no journey to a light in the sky via a sky vacuum. The gas we're breathing would fill space, mate. It's a violation of natural law. You've just been lied to. And what's happening now is you're perpetuating the future faking you fell for.
a much bigger and better Earth space station. Then you need a lunar station, gateway. But they also want to put people back on the moon to return.
They didn't ever put men on the moon. Again, they'd have had to have travelled through a sky vacuum to get there. As we covered with you, exact same gentleman with the moon coverage when you questioned whether or not it would be true based on whether or not flags were waving in it and other such crap. No, the journey itself took place through a sky vacuum in violation of the second law of thermodynamics. Entropic law debunks the claim that you can go to the moon and Mars. There is no sky vacuum.
Turn to the moon.
Turn.
Yeah. But again, sort of at least semi-permanently, a base, perhaps on the south pole of the moon.
This is how you position an argument when it's in violation of natural law. Make sure that people are discussing the technology, because then you can put men to work making the technology that everybody's associated with Mars travel. So if this technology comes to pass, then we've definitely got Mars travel, because that's how it's positioned. It's not whether or not we can actually have a light in the sky be soil that we can get to. It's how much fuel did they use? Were the rockets capable of holding pressure in the sky vacuum with very thin aluminium? What? So we don't want the gas to escape the rocket into the sky vacuum, but they look through the window at Earth with gas on the surface not filling a vacuum. It makes no sense if you look at it in that context, but if we just assess whether or not there's enough fuel, it's about whether or not technology can do it. And then if you can show a rocket on the ground burning that amount of fuel, then they definitely went to the moon. No, they didn't. You can create as much technology as you like and tell us how long with future faking it's going to be to get to that technology, to get to the Mars, that you'll be dead by the time that this future faking is supposed to have come to fruition. And as I said earlier, there's going to be a whole raft of other kiddies now, potentially adults then. They're going to be told it's going to be 40 years before we've got the technology.
For all sorts of reasons, you want that or will need that. So that's one of the first big steps, is that, and building this gateway thing. So there's the new Apollo, the updated of the Apollo program is the Artemis program. Or just what I think there's a few more interesting clips of the Perseverance thing.
No, none of these clips are from Mars. You're just watching what looks like 380p, low frame rate, low resolution, crap washed out colour picture of some sand dune on Earth. Because there's no pictures from a sky vacuum, ever. So if these are, as I suggested earlier, stuff that went through the camera, it's just an earthly landscape with crap colours and crap resolution. Go and check out Dillygill, Dillylly, Dillygill. Dillygill. where he shows how NASA do this faking, how they do the crapo-vision. It's just so garbage. Show them it in really fuzzy. It's like it's 2024. You're going to the cinema and watching Spider-Man swing into your face in 3D. Then you get this. This is the cutting edge. Look at it. What is it? What even is this? Yeah? This crap that they future fake you with. Oh, you could be there. What, looking at this grainy crap? Wow, how enticing. Let's just make it bigger. What a joke. I'm sold. Put this in the brochure.
Skip forward maybe a little bit, Samson. A bit more, a bit more. Well, anyway, just watch it from there. Again, to me, incredible footage of an alien world.
Alien like the Americans think of the Mexicans when they cross the border illegally. Like those sorts of aliens. Like people from another land. Yeah? Maybe when we describe the new worlds with those sorts of people now described as displaced, we'd better not call them aliens, because that needs an association with people being on these places. It's not like we found places with soil with people on them that we now call aliens. I mean, displaced people. Got to stop confusing those two. The aliens exist on the sky rocks, in the sky vacuum, with the atmosphere, sphere-shaped air oxymoron that's not filling vacuums. Gotcha. Those are the aliens. On this crap footage, from the leading cutting edge at 300 billion a day, here's what they give you. Crap. You're buying this though, aren't you, mate? This is an amazing alien world. It's like, oh, I did this in a sand pit and showed you the same thing. You'd still think the same thing because you easily duped.
And it's touching down. It's really, really close to the ground at that point.
It reminds me of chocolate a bit. I don't know why. The Ferrero Rocher.
Look, they're the jets, and they're dropping it down on the tether. Looking straight up, that's the sky crane. And then it breaks the tether. And anyway, we've got lots of clever chaps working on this sort of stuff. There's one.
Have we? Got clever chaps working on the technology. What about the problem of the gas that we're breathing filling the sky vacuum? That there's no containment between us and it in this rhetoric that came from the church 500 years ago, based on flat Earth elevation angle measurements of these very same lights that you're now claiming we can travel to. And this is footage of it. This crap footage that's obviously on Earth with Earth and sky. Am I missing something, or are you just really easily duped? There's no sky vacuum.
Another link, the next link actually, Perseverance brought a little drone. Do you remember this? This was a few years ago. One of the first white pill segments I've attempted with Callum was us showing this. That's actually a little drone on Mars.
Wow. It's just like the drones we have here, working in exactly the same way that we have drones. You're so easily duped. This is just footage of a drone in really crap resolution with a filter. It's just a drone.
And it worked really, really well.
On Mars. Really? Well, it works well in the oxymoronic sphere-shaped air, not filling the vacuum. So here's the surface of Mars, and here's the horizon that looks suspiciously like an Earth horizon with an Earth sky. And let's just pretend that this is the black area of sky vacuum. I realise it's just where the frame ends. But for the sake of this example, right next to this sphere-shaped air, we've got the area they just travelled through, this black area of vacuum. So why is the drone working again? Surely all of this Martian atmosphere would immediately go into the vacuum. In line with entropic law, it's the second law of thermodynamics. High pressure goes to low pressure. Always. Without exception. But in this view, we've got the Earth, Mars, and the Martian sky. Yeah. And the Martian sky vacuum with the high-pressure gas not filling it. This is garbage. The fact that you believe this is on Mars is pathetic, when it's just a drone on Earth.
Surprisingly well. As long as there's not storms, you can sort of fly around.
Storms? like weather systems that depend on the entropic effects of high pressure moving to low pressure. So in the oxymoronic sphere-shaped air on Mars in a sky vacuum, we've got high and low pressure systems following entropic law that creates storms, but the gas isn't filling the sky vacuum. You're an idiot.
It's quite good because it's a very thin atmosphere.
Really cool, yeah. It's obviously less gravity, but much less
Oh, here we go. Much less atmosphere, right?
atmosphere.
Yeah.
Yeah, atmosphere. It's got sphere-shaped air not filling a vacuum, and also entropic abidance with storms. I see. That's a big problem. See, if you've got storms developing, then you've got high pressure moving into low pressure. Well, then you've got oxymoronic Martian sphere-shaped air not moving into the low pressure of the sky vacuum. How does that work? It doesn't. This is all fake. Filmed on Earth, and you've just been lied to. Come on, just try and join. No.
Yeah.
But these guys are really clever, and they figured it all out. And it has actually
Appeal to authority.
a roaring success.
I think we will do
that
this,
drone.
but as humanity. But I don't know if it's going to be in our lifetimes. I hope it is.
Yeah, hopefully it will be in the 2030s.
Hopefully, future fate your way to going to Mars like they've been doing for years. They're not going to.
Or 2040s.
Maybe we have billions of dollars or pounds in the future. You know, we're one of the select few who go.
I'm not going.
Billions? Drop in the ocean, mate. We need to sink trillions into it. Tens of trillions! Drop in the ocean, mate. You're thinking too small.
Yeah, but if there's any major catastrophe, the survivors will have to go to Mars. So there's going to be a very select club of people.
This is a marketing technique called the death cell. Yeah, we're based on our instincts. Reproduce, don't die. Well, what do you think he's appealing to here? If we all die, we'll need Mars. Give him 20 trillion.
People who are going to have tickets to Mars.
Right.
You wouldn't want to be there.
And to be fair,
And you wouldn't want to be someone without a ticket. Because I've got a golden ticket. I'm going to go to Mars.
Elon is very rich and very motivated, and he clearly wants to do it in his lifetime, and he's older than us. So
Yeah.
when he
Elon knows it's all fake. The reason he's having the success in the world that he inhabits, in the timeline that he inhabits, in the pseudo-Romanian space dimension that he peddles, is because he's happy to peddle it. He gets away with being allowed to punt his electric vehicles, do all the bullshit that he's allowed to do, because he goes with the flow of the narrative. The Western world religion is upheld by Elon. Well, in my mind, there's no way he knows it's not fake. He says it. Well, you know it's real. It looks so fake. You're telling me that's a man who doesn't know what we're saying? No, he knows. He just knows it's not in his interest to do what we do. Now, obviously, we have found out to our detriment just how bad it is to talk about this stuff. You'll be shoved to the bottom of the lists on YouTube. You'll be censored. You'll be ridiculed. Elon Musk has found great success by peddling this crap to idiots like you to keep it propped up. And he has afforded great success in return. But in my mind, he knows damn well he's not going to that light in the sky as he lies to you guys about it. But he must. It's a necessary evil, he might describe it as. But in my mind, there's no way Elon doesn't know he ain't going to that light in the sky. He knows damn well it's all fake. But it looks real, doesn't it?
he's going to do everything he can to get it done in his lifetime, so we should be all right.
Hopefully. I'd just like to see it. Yeah. Anyway, so the new...
You'd just like to see it. Yeah, because unless you do, it's just belief, isn't it? That little hesitant... I'm going to listen to that again. That was a very telling moment. I'm not going to let that slide.
Do everything he can to get it done in his lifetime, so we should be all right.
Hopefully. I'd just like to see it. Anyway.
You'd just like to see it. Yeah, I'd like to see a Narnia too, if I'm going to believe it's real. I mean, I'm going to want to go through that wardrobe. Yeah? I'm going to want to experience the time dilation and the Turkish delights in Narnia if I'm going to believe that it's real. I'm just going to need to see it. Like, you just need to see the sky vacuum that they're travelling through. You'd also be seeing all of the dispersion of the gas that we're breathing at the same time as the rockets went through it, though. I mean, obviously, this is a crazy narrative because we'd have never developed gas pressure in the first place if the first particle of gas left the ground and in Narnia went into a sky vacuum. It would just dissipate immediately into it. It would leave the ground in whatever vector it's travelling and continue in that direction indefinitely until it collided with something. So we'd have never developed gas pressure on Earth if there was nothing containing that gas pressure. Your world just has a sky vacuum right next to that pressure, doesn't it? Like in your black bit next to your Martian air in a sphere shape. Yeah, air doesn't take sphere shapes. It just fills spaces.
Anyway, so the new Apollo program, if you like, for the 21st century is the Artemis program. And these are the missions that are going to take us to the moon.
I appreciate the naming as well. Apollo's sister.
Yeah. And so...
Yeah, very appropriate that your religion would be based on the names of Greek gods. How appropriate. Yeah, this is because it's your religion. So it is, it's appropriate.
They keep extending how many missions there'll be. Last I saw, they slated as many as...
This is not going to be very many, I know the percentage of my viewers, but there's going to be women out there that have got a nice narcissist boyfriend. Yeah, we'll get married next year. We'll start planning in 6 months. 6 months rolls by. When we're going to get married then? We're going to start planning. Yeah, we'll get married next year in the summer. We'll start planning it at Christmas. Christmas rolls round. We're going to start getting married. We're going to look at making plans. Yeah, now we've got Christmas out of the way. We'll start looking at plans in about 6 months' time for next year. Just future fake your way to the woman's heart. Because the effect when that woman hears it, oh, we're going to get married. We're going to start planning it in 6 months. The effect is immediately realised. It's the desire has been satisfied in that moment. No weddings needed. And the narcissist will know this. Just future fake your way to it constantly. Now, even better, if you can start looking at flowers and napkins in Homebase, because then there's this impression that you may even be spending money towards it. But a few napkins and a few flowers doesn't cost very much. Certainly nowhere near as much as a wedding. And in this respect, you can throw as much of your endless stream of money at people that will back your lie by producing technology. That numpties like this will discuss whether or not the technology is going to come into fruition in the next 20 years. It's great. What a great narcissistic way of lying to people.
16 Artemis missions. So they've already done Artemis 1, which was an unmanned, uncrewed, but full-size rocket.
We already went to the Abbey. We walked around the Abbey. I mean, it's almost like we're getting married now when we're walking around it. We're in the Abbey now, aren't we? Yeah, 6 months, we'll start planning it. What's that? We need a really nice hotel. Yeah, well, let's go for a meal at this hotel. That'll be where we potentially think about. It might be one of the things we consider on the list of places that we'll get married and have our reception at. So we'll have a meal. It'll cost £100, as opposed to the 10 grand to rent it out for the reception that we're not having ever. It's going to be in 6 months. I don't know why I'm laughing. It's terrible, really, because this is just pure death cell and narcissistic future faking.
Was it SLS rocket, full size, to the moon, slingshot round the moon and come back just to test, to make sure they can still do that. And
you can't slingshot, because slingshot is a description of Keplerian orbital motion, isn't it? Where do you think Kepler got his values for these slingshot orbital motions that you're going to be doing? Oh, well, they came from flat Earth elevation angle measurements of the stars to produce these models for the church to better predict when the stars would be in the places in the sky, because they couldn't figure it out very well. So they had some off-the-wall thinking and turned Earth into a ball with the angle measurements to things like Polaris at its minimum for a radial value that Huygens can later infer as given them the scale, because they know that the line in the sky called Venus is the same size as the spherical Earth that was measured flat. You can do all of these things to believe later in history that we're actually standing on the surface of a ball and doing slingshots with these church-based maths. Nobody's doing slingshots in Keplerian orbital motion, my friend. No, you definitely can't do these things. These are concepts. invented mathematically. And their only real purpose is to better say when the stars will be in certain places. Not so you can go to them off the ball that's been used to predict where they'll be in the sky, measured flat with a flat ground. I mean, that's utterly absurd. I mean, that is also the religion that we all in the Western world, and the majority of the world, in fact, believed, for us, past tense, to this very day. But we're not. You can't slingshot around the moon. It's a Keplerian orbital motion.
That was a complete success, or almost complete success. When the thing landed back on Earth, they realised there was a couple of things that weren't 100% perfect, but largely, sort of 95, 99%, all went well. They've already picked the crew to go back. If you scroll down, Samson, on that, a little way down, you see the crew.
If they ever leave the ground claiming to go to Mars, and they do interviews that say they have or are going to, I'm not going to call it until they do actually suggest they've done the mission. Like the NASA astronauts. They're all liars. The ones that say they've gone to the moon are liars. They haven't. Now, this crew are either being prepped for or already know that at some point, if they're going to suggest they've been there, they're going to have to lie. Now, maybe they're in the stage that the NASA astronauts are in. Of course you're going to go to Mars. Now we need to do the training and show you the technology in preparation for going to Mars. So they're just being put in the same position as these numpties, future faking. In other words, they don't tell the people on this list that they're not really going to go to Mars, but you're going to have to lie about it. They tell them they are. They are getting married in 6 months. So when they tell the world, I'm definitely going to Mars, people will believe them. Like they believed that spinster when she told the world she was getting married in 12 months.
I hope
It is a bit diverse, yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, thank God. The first person of colour and the first woman to land on the moon.
To be married in the Abbey with the beautiful hotel reception.
So anyway, that's the crew. So Artemis 2, they're going to do a crew, and that's in September next year. It'll be like Apollo 10, where they fly around the moon with people in it, fly around the moon and come back, and then Artemis 3.
No, they won't. So this bit of the lie, that'll either get cancelled, like so many others. I vaguely remember a guy called Tim who was claiming to go to the moon about 12 months ago. Do we all remember Tim? A member of the general public in America that was told he was going to go to the moon? Why isn't Tim coming back telling us he's been to the moon? Oh, did that fail? Oh, is this the latest one? Maybe this is Timmy. We'll find out.
3, which is meant, I think, in 2026, same crew, I believe, is where they actually plan to land on the moon.
No, they won't be going around the moon. They won't be going to the moon. They won't be travelling past high-pressure gas that we're all breathing into an area 10 to the minus 17 torr sky vacuum to slingshot in a Keplerian motion derived from the church's mathematics of predicting where the stars will be. This is all garbage.
And it'll be Elon's
That'll be an important first.
It's fun with
But
us.
they're just going to yo-yo between it, aren't they? Going to the moon so we can prove it is really a new world, unlike the new worlds we discovered flat when we navigated with these stars that are now being claimed to be the worlds themselves. We found the new worlds with the stars by traversing the world flat and measuring the angles to them. Now, oh no, we're not going to find new worlds with the stars. The stars are the new worlds! Look, Elon's put a crew together.
Sequels, the
And I think they're going to land.
Fast and Furious 20.
I said they're going to land at the South Pole, right? Yeah, Artemis 20. It might be. I think they're up to 16. I've heard somewhere. Saw a video somewhere. Because they want to build either permanent or semi-permanent human presence on the moon, probably at the South Pole where there's water ice in the craters.
Of course they do. Yeah, they're going to populate Mars. And also, Aslan's putting a whole army together in Narnia and they're recruiting. So, be here or be sphere for the recruitment process over in Narnia. They need as much help as they can get. They've got a war going on. The Fawns have turned on all of them. The Lions are revolting. It's a mess in Narnia. They're going to need help. So, yeah, they're going to need money too. I'm going to set up the Narnia support fund.
And the science is there or nearly there to make fuel.
The wardrobe science is very close to complete as well. They're going to duplicate the original wardrobe in 2 separate locations so they can double the war effort in Narnia. And also, where all the naysayers said that the fur coats wouldn't survive the trip, we've got nanite coats now. The technology is so advanced, it's amazing. And many, many fruitful hours have been put in by many hard-working men to create the nanotechnology fur coats to traverse that wardrobe.
And all sorts of metals and materials that are on.
All sorts of furs and synthetics to go through the wardrobe. Yeah, you're talking about what the technology, for what? Going through the sky vacuum. So would the gas we're breathing. It's never going to change. All of this is garbage.
On the moon, you build things out of stuff that's on the moon.
Yeah.
Rather than
You have to do it from local.
But what, you'd have to mine it? Like, get resources from it, like we did on the New Worlds? The ones that we colonised in our recent history when we traversed the world flat into outer space and found new worlds and mined them for their resources. Of course, the moon's got all of that going on, and Mars! Those twinkling lights are where we can mine new resources. Of course.
Manufacturing, because of the reason you outlined, it's too much to take.
Too expensive.
orbit.
Yeah. Every pound of weight you take up into orbit costs.
You can actually even make solar panels for energy from lunar regolith. I mean, it has a woeful.
Where are they getting this garbage from? I mean, seriously. They're under the misapprehension that they can go to a light in the sky and mine it. The soil in the sky.
Light to energy conversion rate, but because you can make it there, it's still superior. So you make it out of regolith.
And with water ice, you can break up the hydrogen and the oxygen, and there's all sorts of very clever things that can be done.
You break the water into hydrogen, which is rocket fuel, and oxygen, which you need to breathe. So yeah.
Yeah, you'd also need it to be under containment, though, wouldn't you? Like the pressure that we're breathing here on Earth, that would dissipate into the sky vacuum if any of this narrative was true.
And to fire the engines as well.
Yeah.
You need oxygen.
Through the sky vacuum where all the other gas would be expanding into. This is all fake, the gentlemen. If you're unaware, perhaps let these gentlemen know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment underneath their video that alludes to the fact that they're discussing an area of volume that isn't real, called the sky vacuum, otherwise known as outer space. So there is a link going by in the live stream chat right now if you are watching live. Please do actually go to their video right now as I'm doing this call to action and leave a quick comment that says, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Please don't swear or be insulting, as they will just immediately remove your comment, and rightly so. But just politely allude to the fact that we're helping them understand the garbage rhetoric in violation of the second law of thermodynamics that they are peddling on behalf of their overlords. Somebody wants to add something from G+. No. So yeah, please let them know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment underneath their video. I'll do this call to action a couple more times and explain the reason why I do this. You'd presumably think, why are you promoting these people if they're essentially against what you peddle on a daily basis? Well, it's because we get no algorithmic love whatsoever from YouTube. This is considered favoured content, which is just another way of YouTube saying unfavoured content, that's us, is censored. But that doesn't sound very good, so other more favourable content is promoted above us. In other words, we get shoved to the bottom of the list and get no YouTube love. So, in the vain hope that if someone like Podcast of the Lotus Eaters were to respond, they'd do the same for me and put a link to my video in their response that says, nah, yeah, we can have thunderstorms on Mars with high pressure going to low pressure to create those systems of weather, but it doesn't apply to the sky vacuum where the gas isn't filling from the atmospheric sphere-shaped Martian air. That doesn't apply to the sky vacuum that they travel through and traverse the high-pressure gas that we're breathing and wave goodbye at the Kármán line. Because gas go down, go boom, boom, go splash, splash. Maybe employ gravity as a get-out. Like a non-force of pseudo-Riemannian bent space-time is going to somehow violate the laws of gas behaviour. Anyway, hopefully that call to action is long enough for people to actually have toddled along to the podcast of the Lotus Eaters and let them know that at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment that won't immediately get removed, in the vain hope that they would do the same for me if they were to respond to this video. Or anybody else for that matter. Chance would be a fine thing. Have anybody from the Discord or my G Plus panel, for that matter, got anything to say on this podcast as we're coming towards the end of this live stream? And I haven't heard anything from anybody pretty much. Come on, help me out. Asking you to join in.
I'm in the garden because it may sound bad, but yeah, it sounds like these guys are just like agreeing with each other about concepts that aren't proven at all.
Yeah, in the back of his mind, the one guy knows that he just wants to see it. Now, it might be me reading too much between the lines because he's talking about seeing Elon Musk produce the technology to do it in future, and he wants to see that, but that just means he's got very low standards. I'll employ a higher standard and assume the best for him, which is to say that in his mind he's going, no, I actually want to see this. That is to say, if I'm going to believe in a sky vacuum, I'm going to need to see that that's the case, that I can go past the high pressure gas into an area where gas isn't filling, that's 10 to the minus 17 to a vacuum. He can't, he won't, it's a violation of natural law. Space is fake, gas fills space. Anybody else? Thank you for piping up, Flat Earth Ranger. You there, Neil? Did I do a good enough job explaining the juxtaposition of the actual expansion of our flat territory into the new worlds and the aliens that came from them in what was formerly known as outer space towards the offing? That would be the horizon. Not up. Out. That's how we actually found the new worlds. I'm saying this for my audience more than anything else. We're given, when we arrive in Flat Earth, a standard Flat Earth rank and file rhetoric that we're supposed to peddle and regurgitate about ice walls at the edge of a known territory that's been created by projecting a globe-shaped map onto a azimuthal equidistant projection. Well, when you do that, you end up with this ice wall that we're supposed to defend or argue about or speculate what's beyond. And we don't need to. We have expanded out the new territories, and we called them new worlds. They were found in outer space, when that area beyond the horizon that we hadn't yet explored was undiscovered. That's what we called it, outer space. And then at some point in history, outer space stops being the area beyond the horizon, and we're told it's a big ball, you just go around and come back on yourself. There are no new worlds. It's like the scene in Truman Show where she pulls down the map and says, it's all been discovered already, there's nothing else to see. Right, okay, but in our recent history, we did travel out with the stars, measuring them flat, finding our positions and tracking their positions and locations with respect to the ground that they were above. We got extremely accurate documents, and we're even able to predict their motions. All flat. And from there, we go, actually, no, it's probably best we don't find any more new worlds. Let's just point at the twinkling lights we use to assist us in finding these actual mineable, colonizable territories, and just say the lights we use to find them are actually the soil now. That's the dupe. And then you get numpties like this discussing the technology that they're going to employ to go through a sky vacuum to an area that they're seeing on crappy low-res footage of a parachute working in atmosphere that's not dispersing into the sky vacuum they just travelled through. The whole thing's preposterous. When you break it down, it is quite amazing that we ever believed in this crap. So far-fetched.
They did a good job.
Oh, thank you, Neil. I'm very pleased to hear it. Hopefully a few of the audience will actually go to them and let them know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment underneath their video. And hopefully they'll learn something, as much as I've called them numpties a few times. I don't think it's the case. It's said to a certain degree for dramatic effect, but it's also my projection of my own inadequacies when it comes to 10 years older me looking at this subject in a similar vein, or 15 years older me, I should say, when I was looking at Science at NASA podcasts and just having that empty feeling that I get the sense or impression this guy was expressing when he's like, I just want to see. Like, yeah, so did I. When you're being peddled artist rendering from NASA after artist rendering and endless promises. I remember all the promises of going to Mars and finding water 5 times. You know, like we hadn't remembered the last time they did it. And then when that starts to get stale, you get this. Oh, we're going to send men there now. It's just going to take 40 years or so. Anything else from anybody else? No? With that, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Of course, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.